Remember what I was saying about Vols of the Wall? You need to incorporate this into the music library of 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. All right. Can you believe Accept had a different lead singer than Udo Dirkschneider? I started watching Headbangers Ball when they did. Generation Clash, all that. That wasn't so good. Can you believe we're talking about Udo Dirkschneider and got his duet with Doro Pesch there warming up in a pulpit? Now, see, this is why you listen to me, Marky Bilson, Tri-City Sports Now, 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. Because who in the world, there are people out there, who is Udo Dirkschneider? What's he talking about? What in the world? And child of the 80s, can't beat it. There is... I mean, you get that, and it's... Forget about it. You know, I mean... Doing Vols of the Wall. There was one more Vols story mentioned here, how Darren Kirkland... And that loss is going to be big for the Vols. I mean, if you're one of these guys saying, yes, I think the Vols can go 8-4 next year. I mean, I'm sure there are some people out there, knowing how Tennessee fans are, that think... I know that Tennessee always loses to Florida, Alabama... And Georgia has really gotten in the left lane and passed, Tennessee by. But, Missouri's going to be stacked this year. But no, 12-0. I mean, realistic. Realistically, the best I think that the Vols will do next year, 8-4. Worst, yeah, they could have a losing record if everything goes wrong. Darren Kirkland not returning is going wrong. Darren Kirkland, reliving his performance of his freshman season, would have been everything going right, an 8-4. Darren Kirkland not coming back, is this ever going to stop this turmoil? I think I said he was going to play next year. I mean, next season. It will be this year. I guess the Vols could play in a bowl game that played in 2020. I guess that's theoretically possible. But regardless... The other, I told you, Jordan Bone, he's not coming back. Here's the other story out there. Tennessee has scheduled Washington, the Huskies, Knoxville versus Seattle. There you go. They're going to play them, not on the gridiron, but in men's basketball. Okay, Washington was good last year. I mean, they won the Pac-12 regular season title. They went to the second round of the NCAA tournament. They're probably the best team in the Pac-12. Admittedly, the Pac-12 stinks. But still. 27-9, 15-3, that doesn't stink. I mean, let's not confuse this with, I don't know, the Atlantic Sun Conference either. I mean, here we go. So they'll be playing Washington. Will the Tennessee Volunteers men's basketball team? Will they play it in Seattle? No. Will they play it in Thompson Bowling Arena? No. They'll play it in Toronto. It makes no sense to me. But, you see, there's a tournament sponsored by the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, not to be confused, I would imagine, with the Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts, nor to be confused with the Hall of Fame in Toronto, the real one, the one in the old bank and the shopping mall. I'm talking about the Hockey Hall of Fame. You still got that jersey with Lenin on it from Soviet hockey days. You see, I'm just like, that really, my goodness. And then that really did also, when you, like I said, you go to the Hockey Hall of Fame, you see the Russian hockey goalie with Lenin on the chest, you start really appreciating that semifinal Americans' victory 4-3 over the USSR in 1980. Trust me on that. And a gold medal. Here's the thing, though. They've got a tournament there. Tennessee against Washington has got to be the glamour game here, even as depleted as Tennessee will be, because Buffalo, nationally ranked this last year, but not, they've had a good 2-year run, but they're going to get a new coach. And, anyway, Buffalo will play Harvard. Buffalo will play Harvard. That's going to be in this, one of 3 games scheduled as part of the inaugural James Naismith Classic. The other is Rutgers against St. Bonaventure, and it's not the late 60s. Jim Valvano played at Rutgers. I think they were actually halfway decent back then. And St. Bonaventure, if you want to know, made the Final Four in 1969. Haven't done a whole lot since, but, I think they still went by Brown. They've always been the Bonnies, but I think that in 69 you could still get away with calling St. Bonaventure the Brown Indians. Only in New York. John McGraw, the great baseball manager, New York Giants of a century ago, he went to St. Bonaventure. He actually made a deal with them where that he would coach the baseball team, and if he could have studies there. If he could study, he studied Latin, among other things. And John McGraw, one of my favorite historical sports figures. There you go. Okay. George Bernard Shaw called him the epitome of an American. So that sounds good, Tennessee, strength of schedule, Washington. Heck, they've played Gonzaga in the past. You know what I see this as? What an affront to Johnson City. Rick Barnes will go to Toronto to play Washington, but he won't go to Johnson City in a 2-for-1, a 3-for-1, and play ETSU? Think about that. Don't tell me Tennessee isn't ducking ETSU. Don't! Anyway, that's what I take that from. And to be honest with you, they won't, because ETSU is subservient to Tennessee, not in the shadow, but subservient. More people should call them out on this, but they won't. And that's why I've always said that's one of the lackings of the area as a sports town, if you will, or a sports area. Somebody once said, you can't call the Tri-Cities a bad sports town, Marky. It's not a town. It's an area. It's a region. It's a metropolitan. Well, you got me on that, but anyway. Now, I mentioned that Jordan Bone was going to be going to play in the NBA, and he might just make it into the draft now because he's done so well at the combine. The Suns seem to like him, this sort of thing. But R.J. Hampton, he's a 5-star player with good grades. And this is the player that I mentioned earlier in the show that is going to play overseas instead of go to college. And this has gotten a lot of attention. The Los Angeles Times actually did a big story on this. Chuck Schlicken. And it came out over, various sports websites, this sort of thing as well. But here's the thing. Hampton, I can't blame him. Now, he's going to play in New Zealand. It's going to be called the New Zealand Breakers, not to be confused with the Boston, New Orleans, Portland Breakers of the United States Football League. Instead, he's going to be playing in the Australian National Basketball League. No report whether they sail or fly into, I guess they'd call it the mainland down there. But he's going to go to New Zealand. Now, here's a quote, and you're going to see a lot more of this. My dream was never to play college basketball. My dream was always to get to the next level and play in the NBA. Who does? What? Yeah. I mean, who? What? Yeah. There you go. That's something right there. I mean, come on now. And people, think about this. You're playing Little League. You remember that? Pretending you were playing in the big leagues. Even if you were in blue jeans with a pullover shirt, playing and all that. But, you're dreaming of playing in the big leagues. You weren't dreaming of playing for Tony Vitello at Tennessee or at Cal State Fullerton or someplace like that. No. You were dreaming of playing for the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Braves, or the Pirates, or the Indians. Or I was going to throw those two out of the Redlegs. I had a nice day yesterday against the Buccos, let me tell you that much. Somebody like that, I don't care. The Arizona Diamondbacks you were dreaming of playing for or something. So, you really think that R.J. Hampton was dreaming when he was a kid of playing for the Memphis Tigers and not the Celtics? But college will help you get that. Not necessarily. Saying this is going to be the best thing to live like a pro, play grown men every day, and not kind of have to juggle books and basketball and just focus on my main goal. Now, I will say this. I know 40 years ago, there was an old White Shadow episode where, you remember that Coolidge wanted to go and turn pro out of high school, and Ken Reeves talked him out of it because he saw somebody who tried to do that, played in the semi-pro league, and I never will forget the line there. He says, I should have been playing for the Steelers. It was nothing but, it was semi-pro ball was really rough. And so he gets injured, and he's not going to make the NBA. It's that way. Okay? I know that was when... I have no idea what the style of ball is that they play in the Australian Basketball League, or the Australian National Basketball League. But I will say this, even if they were playing, Elbow City or something like that in whatever league, pro league you were going to go to, let me show you this. Although the terms aren't disclosed, the family is saying, and it seems like they'd have more, credibility than the Ball family, who may have started this up, but R.J. Hampton's dad, Rod, said his son had been approached by multiple overseas teams, including one from China that offered him $1 million. You see where, they got this SEC meetings right now. Should we approve likeness and all this? You see how far behind college basketball is? When reportedly a team from China is offering $1 million to an 18-year-old, and they're still arguing here, well, if you become really successful and we can sell your jersey, should we pay you for that? Should you be able to do endorsements? They're still debating that in college basketball. It's not paying the players, although I can't imagine that if college basketball wants to stay relevant, that they won't be doing so. And I think we could see very big turnover and all that. Now, by the way, RJ said, according to his father, scored a 1280 on the SAT, has a 3.7 GPA. So he could get into Texas Tech and Kansas and Memphis. Those were his last three and all that. Way to go, Penny Hardaway, being one of the last three right there for a player of this caliber. The 5-star player, whatever that means. It can be very overrated. But still, R.J. Hampton says the Breakers were the best team for me. Their owners played in the NBA. That's big. And they told me their goal is to help me have a great experience in New Zealand, ultimately a great career in the NBA. Hey, and I tend to believe that because if it works out for Hampton, more players will follow. Whereas, coach, especially at a mid-major, he's just trying to get another contract at a better school.